first that I'm unable to speak in Swedish. I will do my best in a brief presentation. I think it's best, you will see immediately that I am technically challenged. So I'm going to ask you please to show my video, and I'll just ask for the slides to move. Thank you so much. I'm not going to talk about a lot of technical issues. I want to take a step back and to talk about the people and why all this is necessary. So I'm just quite briefly going to talk about the purpose behind the Act and what is needed. So if you could move the slide, please. And again. So let's look at who the Act will help. We talk about 87 million people with disabilities in Europe. That's a very vague and abstract figure, if you like. But if you think about all the people with long-term disability, older people, people with temporary impairments, there is a huge population of people who need and want to travel, but who are constantly challenged by the technology that surrounds us and the fast pace of travel. Next one, please. Why is it needed? I would ask all of us to think, have we ever not been confused, worried when we're in a strange station or airport? We need to buy a ticket, we need to go to the bag drop. We don't understand how the machine works. The image I'm showing there is typical of so many of us. We're confronted with buttons and screens and we don't know what to do. And I think, therefore, that any move that makes ticket machines and all the interfaces simpler is actually going to help all of us. Really, it makes life a lot more comfortable. Next one, please. So why does it matter? I think it's worth taking a moment to think about mobility. If we can't move about independently, and that may be because we can't physically move about, but it may also be because we've lost the confidence to move about. And that is true of many, many older people in particular. And if you can't be independent, you can't move about, you can't do your own shopping, you can't go and see friends, you can't go to the doctor or to healthcare. And that then starts to impact very much on the quality of your life. And we know that there's a link, a very sharp link between a loss of independent mobility and a decline, both in physical and mental health. Some years ago, I spoke at a conference of chiropodists, the people who look after your feet, if you're older in particular. And they said to me that the point at which an older person stops putting on their outdoor shoes and spends the day in their slippers is the point that starts a very rapid decline of physical and mental health and well-being. We also know that if you can't go to see your doctor, for example, the quality of healthcare declines, because if the doctor comes to you, the quality of the lighting, of the cleanliness is much lower. If you can't go to the local grocery shop to do your own shopping, your nutrition is affected because you can't look around and say, the oranges look nice today. You're always depending on somebody else to get you the milk and the bread. So there is very well documented evidence that a loss of mobility is not just an inconvenience, it's a major life factor. Next one, please. And I think if you think about older people in particular, loss of confidence is a huge determinant of a loss of mobility. Above all, older people prefer human contact, and I do want us to remember, in the context of this Act and all its requirements, it's wonderful to have all this technology, but you will still find many older people will look around for a uniformed member of staff standing next to the machine to say, can you help me? So that human contact is always important. We also know that many older people in particular are very frightened of giving personal information or banking information online. It's actually a very reasonable fear because there are so many tales of scams that go on. Again, with age, we lose manual dexterity. We find it harder to use keyboards. We find our vision is not as good as it was. We maybe need to change our glasses to see the screen. And of course, just confusion with the unfamiliarity. So the need for better interface, better systems is not just for people with disabilities, it's for the very large population of older people too. The next one, please. And of course, for many people, it isn't just, I can't see the machine. Maybe I can't reach it from my wheelchair. I can't locate it. I can't find the screen. The top image there on the left is one I particularly like as a very strong message to transport providers everywhere, not to be too clever. I don't know if you can see it well, but it shows a touchscreen machine in a railway station with a tactile guide strip to it. Now, if you need a tactile guide strip to find the machine, you're not going to be able to use a touchscreen. So there's been a lack of thought about the process that needs to go on to design accessibility. So it's always worth stopping and taking stock of who the people are who need it. Is what you're doing really helpful, or is it just too much clever technology that maybe isn't doing the job that you'd hoped it would do? Okay, let's go to the next one. Thank you. I think any of us involved, particularly in aviation and airports, will know the enormous cost of providing assistance to the very large numbers of people with disabilities who travel through airports. It's a very fast growing number and it's a big part of the airport business. But for a lot of those people, actually, they would rather be independent. They'd rather make their own way through, perhaps to the point where they need assistance just to get on board the plane. But they need the assistance right from the start because of the complexity of the machines you have to interface with to get yourself through the system. So there's a big economic case there for the transport industries if you can enable people to travel with more confidence and with less need for assistance as you go. Next one, please. So we know from Gottfried and no doubt from other presentations we've had today, the very demanding list of requirements for the Accessibility Act. For those without vision, for those without hearing, without speech, and so on. And the technology is addressing all of those very, very clearly and very well. But I think we just need to take stock and think, are we going to go to a point where actually we've gone beyond what people are comfortable dealing with? If you can take the next slide, please. I've got a picture there of a ticket machine which is catering for lots of different needs. But is it too complicated? We need to find alternatives to speech, to visual interface, to hearing interface, and so on. But we must be careful we don't do it at the expense of usability. I think there is a real risk that if we don't design with the needs of the user very clearly in mind, we could end up with a set of machines that is actually too complicated for many people to use. So let's just focus on that for a moment. And the next one, please. Okay, I think it's important to remember too that not all disabilities are evident, that, for example, most blind people don't use Braille, many deaf people don't use sign language, not every deaf person can lip read, all of these things. And if we're not very much aware of starting with what the user needs, we may risk designing solutions that are technically correct, but are not correct in the terms of the needs of the user. So I think would urge caution in the designs that we come up with. the technology is undoubtedly capable of solving these problems, but actually, are the people who need to use it capable of interfacing with it with confidence? And the last one, please. So finally, I think my big message with all of this is we have the laws and the standards in place. Engaging with people with disabilities is huge. And I would urge all of you who are designing or operating or running systems, make sure that you've engaged with people about what they need, what they want, how well it will work for them before you sign off on a really clever design. When we get to the point of monitoring and enforcement, it's too late to go back. So we need to stop now at this early stage and make sure that the technical solutions are meeting people's needs. So inclusive design is a term often used, and it really means starting with people's needs and working out from there. Don't make assumptions, and above all, train your staff, whether it's the technical people developing the systems or the people in the station, in the airport, to remember that not everybody, however clever the new machines are, not everybody will be able to manage without the human interface. So please keep the uniformed staff around to guide and to help, particularly as people get used to the new systems, but for many older people, perhaps in the longer term. And I think finally, I would say that we often think, oh, well, it's just the current generation of 80 plus who can't manage technology. When they're gone, it'll all be fine. I would say to you, it won't all be fine, because I think every one of us, when we get to a certain age, will find technology has gone too fast, that we can't keep up with that speed. And so we will rely more and more for our confidence on the presence of staff. And we will still need to be able to say, can you help me with this? I don't think that is ever going to go away. So while the European Accessibility Act is a fabulous development, let's not pretend that it's going to solve everybody's needs all the time. Let's always remember the people in behind it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anne Frye. A lot of in other presentations today, the message have been it's important to involve the users, like you said also, and it's interesting to hear that it's 87 million people that this will help. So that's quite a lot of people. Thank you.